Welcome back
to Gab Street.
to Gab Street.
Talkative Turnpike.
I can't come up with another name that fast. We're on episode 9. How that's weird, man. Because we're into it now.
Yeah.
There's no stopping. We're on our way.
We're on our wayward son.
Full speed. Carry on. Yes. But we do have a guest with us today. But before we get into that, we do have a few messages to relay to you, the audience, first. First of which, we have started accepting, or as we said in the last episode, we started accepting submissions for music to be used in our between our topics in each episode. So you're going to hear some of their tracks today, 10 to 15 second clips, just as we usually do. And you can find links to their pages and such in the descriptions and on social media posts. And we do have another message.
We do have another message. Like last episode, this episode is sponsored by the Green Room. The Green Room is not currently open for business, but they plan to be at the end of 2019 at the latest. They'll be featuring products from t-shirts to tobacco products. If you are interested in hearing more about them, they're kind of like a Spencer's if you've ever been to one of those shops. But if you're interested in hearing more about them, tune into Gab Street to hear more about when you can visit one of these shops. And they will continue to sponsor future episodes because they're just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're super sweet.
Yep.
I hope they, as I said last episode, I hope they end up carrying Gab Street mugs and Gab Street
They carry
t-shirts.
our merch, that's the goal.
And beanies and, all that. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get to why you're all here, the most important part. This episode is about the wonderful man sitting across the TV tray from me today. His name is Donte Wood Spikes. Donte, please say hello.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We'll wait for the audience to reply.
How y'all doing, audience? It's good to talk to you. Thank you for giving me the time. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate anyone that can sit back and listen to true, honest, authentic dialogue because it's important for us to always talk to each other and listen to each other. So I just want to say thank you as you are listening to this.
Thank you very much. We'll probably keep that as a promotional clip. That's very nice of you. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
I want our audience to know how much you contribute to our community, because you do contribute a great lot. This man here spoke at 2016, right?
Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah.
He spoke at TEDx Columbus in 2016, and since then he has presented twice at our high school, actually, the UA Idea Day program. He has hosted 2 sessions there where he went through the importance of mental health and such, and understanding people from other backgrounds as well.
Right.
And so I was there for both sessions, and they were very intelligently presented, and he got his point across. It was very nice to...
You got me feeling all special, man. Thank you.
And then after the last session, I was like, man, we're doing the thing where we're talking to people who are cool, and we want other people to know they're cool.
Right.
So... spit at our microphone, and
You're definitely probably the most high-profile guest we've had on the
Yes.
show so far.
Okay.
you are, probably within the Columbus community, I
Right,
would say.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, our first question for you, specifically about, because you are a social worker, right? Yes.
I'm going to school to become a
one?
social worker,
Okay.
but I'm all in the community. I'm all over the place. I do everything that a social worker does at this point in my life. I just don't have a certificate. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So-
You can pretty much call me one, but when it comes to having the actual papers, nah.
So a very
Okay.
social person that works within the community. Basically a social worker without the official,
Right.
paperwork to say
Right.
so. But-
Exactly.
So it's like girlfriend, but it's just a friend.
right. Like, everybody knows it's my girlfriend, but we just friends. So.
Right, yeah.
But that's pretty much my relationship with the whole social work aspect.
Okay.
But,
So can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done and how you got into what you're doing now?
To be 100% honest, a lot of it was unexpected. It was by accident.
It's the best time, huh?
Yeah, and I had no idea what was coming up for me because, during my teenage years, I was, you go through those things like depression, anger, frustration, confusion, and you really don't know what's going on. You don't know your next step. And as I got older and I started to break out of that, I was just thinking, what can I do? How can I change myself? Who should I be around? Because I really didn't have an idea what I wanted to do. So I just started to place myself in places in the community that I never did before. I just wanted to be present, and I wanted people to see me, and I wanted to see them and hear what they had to say and what they were going through, because the last thing that I wanted to do was be one of the people that always say, man, somebody needs to do something. Somebody needs to do something, but I'm just sitting around doing nothing. So I was like, I'm going to do something. I'm really going to do something. And honestly, it all started as I was going to college. I was going to Columbus State Community College. And it's kind
of
what
I'm going there too.
But I kind of said this at my TEDx talk. My professor was like, I'm doing some stuff in the community. I'm going to a church. I was like, just take me. I want to see what they're talking about, what they're doing. I went to the church, which was First English Lutheran Church. And after that day, I just knew that I was going to stay there and I was going to do something within the community. So basically, just starting off volunteering, I was recognized within that community. I got a job down the street at the community center. I was able to make my way into the elementary school. I also met some of the police officers within that neighborhood. And I was able to, just connect all of those dots. And with everybody knowing who I was, opportunities just started to pop up all over the place. Like I said, unexpectedly. I didn't know I was a speaker until people was like, you should get on stage and start speaking. You need to document your story. You need to share a little bit more. I didn't know what they were talking about. I'm like, I just want to do some volunteer work. But everyone saw something special in me. And it took me a while to start seeing what was special about myself. And I can say that I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to recognize that, and I'm utilizing it to the best of my abilities.
We're really glad to hear that. Yeah, that's nothing but good news. I say.
Right.
And as the saying goes, the best leaders are the reluctant ones.
Right.
So
right.
I think that's a good start.
Yeah.
Start from. With the work that you do, what would you say is your personal mission with that work? What is the goal that you would like to fulfill for yourself?
My personal mission is for, my friends and my family and people that I'm close to, or people that I don't even know, to recognize that they have value. A lot of times when we're trying to figure out what can we do next within our communities, how can we make changes, who should we talk to, we get this well-known figure to come talk from out of town, give them about $1,000, $2,000 just to be here for an hour, then they leave. I'm like, you know what? There's so many people within the community that have so much knowledge, that are helpful, that have been volunteering for I don't know how long, and know the ins and outs of the community. And not just communities where people are, but just knowledge and understanding of how things work. And I want all of those people to recognize that they have value and they can contribute any point in time that they want. They don't have to wait until they're famous. They don't have to wait until somebody else recognizes them. They can just do it whenever they feel like it. And that's a big part of my work, is just doing stuff when I feel like it or when I want to. As soon as I have an idea, I just go forward with it. But I really want those people to recognize, like, hey, I know you see me, I know you see what I'm doing, but you know who I am. Don't ever get it twisted and think just because you saw me on TEDx or you see me speaking at all these different places that I'm a brand new person. You saw me before that. So you know who I am as a person. You know me, the authentic version of myself. That's who I'm taking up there with me. You can do the same exact thing. So bringing those people with me and letting them know that, hey, you have a voice here too. don't think that you have to silence yourself or change yourself or feel like you're not valuable, because you are. And when you get everybody the opportunity to recognize how valuable they are, that's when value just starts to spread throughout the community and among their friends and their families. So I really want for my circle to be taken care of, and then for those people within my circle to take care of their circles, and then for it to just constantly expand. So that's pretty much my mission as I do this work in the community, and what I hope happens as time goes on.
And you really seem to be working through that through some of your documentary projects. I know that your documentary, A Talk with Our Sons, I haven't gotten to see the whole thing, but I did see the clips that were featured in your 2016 TED Talk.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about, because it's like these are kids that are living in the same city as us.
Right.
But Corey and I, we live in a community that's very, like, cushioned, to say the least. I feel like
And that's what your first identity session was about.
Yeah. We don't experience the kind of things that these kids experience, and it's crazy to think that I could drive 5-10 minutes and these kids have a completely different environment than us.
Yeah.
But I think it's great that you're going and actually letting these kids talk about this environment that they have been just kind of born into,
Right.
which is really unfortunate.
Right. Wow. Because I'll be 100% honest with you. Every time, like the times that I came up here to go to the school, and as I was driving up here, I was just looking at the houses, and I'm like, oh my God, these are some nice houses. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, I'm out of place. You know, you like really thinking, I'm out of place. Like, woo. And then I looked over, there's a golf course across the street. Ain't no golf courses out there, but I think we have to be careful with that, because when we say I don't belong here, the same thing is happening vice versa, where people in your position that grew up here and live in this environment, you go to where I come from, you be like, I don't belong here, when realistically wherever you are is wherever you are, and wherever you go is wherever you go.
Right.
Simple as that. It's up to you to say, am I going to interact with the people here, or am I going to ignore the people here? Am I going to find the real people here, or am I going to find the fake people here? That's up to you. You should never look at somebody and say, oh, they're black, oh, they're white, oh, they're gay. Oh, all of these different things that can make you, before you even talk to a person, make you say, I don't belong there, or there's nothing I can say or do. They won't listen to me, they won't engage with me. That's not the truth. You will find people like that, though. You'll find people that live in the same environment as you to make you feel that way. So we have to be honest about how different environments definitely play a role in how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others. And the whole concept behind the Talk with Our Sons, well, it was going to be a documentary, but I think what I'm going to do with it now is just keep it strictly on social media. Okay. I would continuously put different videos out and interview people as time goes on, because I know a lot of young men that have stories to share, and they never get the opportunity to do so. And you'd be surprised that when you pull a camera out and put it in somebody's face, how deep they will actually go and what they'll share when you just ask them. A lot of the guys, like at TEDx, when I showed that clip, I think it was only 30 seconds. But within that 30 seconds, you heard so much. You heard the pain. You heard the frustration. You heard the fear. You heard depression. You heard anger. You heard sadness. And it's like, how can I hear all of these things within 30 seconds from people that live in the same city as me, but I've never seen them before? And that was the whole point. And if you can look at young men that are saying these things, talking about, I feel like I'm going to die sooner or later if I stay in this neighborhood. I never had a real relationship. I don't have food to eat all the time. I got to wait till food stamps come. Like, this is a real life experience to where tomorrow seems like it's not promised. And when tomorrow isn't promised to somebody, that's when they get into survival mode. So you have a community full of young men that are in survival mode. When you in survival mode, you do what you got to do to survive. And it's simple as that. But what's behind that? Because it's a lot of preconceived notions, it's stereotypes, it's all of these things that can make a person say, I'm not going to that neighborhood. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the same exact people that are labeled as criminals, people that are labeled as thugs, the people that get stereotyped. I'm putting the camera in their face and I'm saying, tell me about your life. Tell me your story before the news puts you on TV talking about your past or where you come from, or say you in a gang, or talk about your affiliation with your family, all these different things. Who are you before that moment? And using my platform to combat every single thing that is said about young black men specifically.
So we would rather you have your mouth open in front of this camera than your mouth duct tape in front of the big one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
And I love hearing stories from people that live in environments completely different of mine, because it helps me appreciate how lucky I am to live in a community like Upper Arlington. And my dad, he grew up on the hilltop.
Right.
So he has seen and experienced some bad stuff.
Your dad. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hilltop. There's people watching my video right now. They know about the hilltop.
Yeah.
They know all about the hilltop for real.
But yeah.
Anybody from the hilltop watching?
Oh, are you on IG Live right now?
Facebook.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I didn't realize
But
it.
yeah, it might be some hilltop watchers right now, and they can tell you like, yeah, the hilltop is rough.
Yeah. So it's crazy because both my parents grew up on the west side. My mom was more of a kind of safer suburban area, but my dad was kind of like, he grew up in a neighborhood where like he started smoking at like when he was like 11 years old, and so like some of his friends have been like shot in drive-bys. It's like he's seen some crazy stuff, and I just kind of like, it's crazy how my parents grew up near environments like that, and like here I am in Upper Arlington, which is I can attribute to my parents' like hard work.
Right.
And so I'm still very fortunate that I don't have to experience the type of stuff that my parents have seen and that these kids have to see. But at the same time, I feel like I can listen to all these stories, but I feel like I'm never gonna quite understand because I have never been in that situation.
Right.
So like,
and I would say I don't want anybody to understand that.
Right.
That situation, but I definitely want people to educate themselves and know where it's coming from, why it is the way it is, and understand things like oppression and history and how it plays a role in environments like that existing, because it's not just in Columbus. You can pretty much go to every single state and find communities that are suffering from the same exact problems and issues, where you got neighborhoods that have a lot of money, you got neighborhoods that don't. You have neighborhoods that predominantly have white people, you have neighborhoods that predominantly have black people. So you have to really figure out, how is this continuously happening on a national scale within America? And that's when you have to educate yourself and really say, okay, I know where this is coming from, and this is what I have to do to change it. So yeah, that's what I want from someone. I don't want anybody to look at the stories and say like, oh man, this is so sad, this is horrible, man, I hate it, I feel guilty, or I don't even want that. I personally, I really don't even want that. I want people to see it, educate themselves, and figure out what can they do to change it.
right.
So that's what I'm shooting for.
Our eyes met across the dance floor. Candied kiss. And
Would you say you've ever found yourself in survival mode?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep. Definitely.
Would you like to tell us about that?
I would have to say during my teenage years earlier, where I was talking about the survival mode and depression and all of these different things that was going on, I felt like I didn't belong in that environment. It was confusing to me because I grew up with both of my parents. I grew up in a bad neighborhood, but within my house, it was not reflective of my environment. And the way that my parents engaged with me was not the same way other children's parents engaged with them. So with inside of my house, the way it looked and the way it felt was absolutely nothing like the environment. So I literally, every single time I would leave my house, it was a completely different experience. And I was having this internal conflict with myself at a young age, trying to break down, who am I supposed to be? Should I be the Donte inside of the house with my parents? Or should I be the Donte out in the neighborhood, and should I try and be like everybody else around me? I don't come from that, so should I act like I'm experiencing the same thing that my friends are experiencing? Should I try to get into a gang? Should I get a gun? Should I sell drugs? Should I turn out in school? I had like one of the craziest perceptions of what, like as a young black man, I had a crazy perception of what they were supposed to be because of my experience with my father. You know, the whole thing was like, you don't have your fathers, they not around, they don't care about you, they in jail. Like that's always the story, but that wasn't my experience. So if you weren't like my father, you know, or if you weren't like me, I thought very little of you. So I couldn't connect with people if they weren't like my father or like me. And it made it very difficult because I was continuously put around people that were nothing like I was. And it caused me to be depressed. It caused me to isolate myself. And I just shut down during my teenage years because I didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, to see people around you die that look like you die or live in the worst situations and circumstances possible over and over and over for years and years and years and years, and nothing is changing, you say to yourself, sooner or later I'm next, somehow, some way. Even if I'm so different from all of these people, why am I around them? Why can I visually see what's wrong? Why can I cut the news on and see the kid that I go to school with dead? Why? Because sooner or later that's going to be me. So I was just like, you know what? Nothing matters. Like, nothing really matters at this point at all because there's nothing for me. I know how people see me and how they perceive me. I know how I think about myself. I hate myself. I hate everybody that hate me, but I hate myself too, so it's all good. And that put me in a position where I was lost, but at the same time I didn't care. And that was how I was surviving and existing. It was the only way I could survive because I felt like when I did care and when I did do things right and when I tried to make good decisions, nothing came from it because nobody was paying attention to somebody that did right, because you got to fix all of the things that are wrong, or you got to give attention to situations that are major. You know, I was pretty quiet. Like, I talk a lot now, but I was pretty quiet back then. So you get graced over and passed up when you don't make a lot of noise. So that continuously happened to me. And I kind of got lost in my own silence and my own thoughts. Because if I'm not talking to people, my thoughts are constantly circulating all of the time. And I'm telling myself, well, this ain't going to happen. This is going to happen. They don't like me. They don't want to be around me. They going to set me up. Oh, I'm more depressed now. Well, I ain't going to talk to no counselor because the counselor going to try and dig into my head. They ain't even going to talk to me because I'm a young African-American male, so they just thinking I'm another thug or criminal. Like, when I have a very deep outlook on life, but who's really going to dig to see that? Nobody. That's how I thought. I was very pessimistic, and my only way to survive was to isolate myself mentally and emotionally, physically, and that's how I survived, by trying to stay away from everybody else that had their own survival mode.
Okay. How often do you feel that that's the same reason for other kids as to why they get into bad situations or they make bad decisions, rather than the lack of food or the lack of support? How often do you feel like it's that isolation?
I feel like sometimes it's just what you see. Luckily, like I said, I had both of my parents in an environment that was part of my foundation. Like from my first words to my first steps, my parents and my household was my foundation. So regardless of what I went through, I've always been able to revert back to that within my life. So when situations come up, my immediate response is what I've been taught at birth, and just how to function, how to move, how to blink, how to walk. It's all embedded and it's physiologically embedded inside of me. I think for other children, sometimes they don't get an opportunity like I did. And if they only see the worst of the worst and that becomes their normal, they may not be able to fully understand what they're doing, and they probably can't articulate it because it's not anything to talk about. Because once again, it's like you said, survival is a part of survival. So if this is how I survive on a day-to-day basis, this just makes sense. If I see abuse inside of my house every day, if I grow up to abuse somebody, that's normal. That's what happened. If somebody gets killed in my neighborhood almost every month, that's what happens. Sooner or later, I'm going to get killed. So some children see the worst of the worst, and sometimes parents also have saw the worst of the worst. And when those parents have children, they may not know how to properly intervene and stop that generational curse, and not set their children up for the same position in situations that they've been in. And what happens is it just keeps happening over and over and over and over and over. So I think people such as myself and people that understand the environment should use themselves to intervene and help out, support the parents, support the children, support the community as a whole, and let it be known like, hey, you know what? There's more for you, and I want you to be a part of what that more is, because it can't happen without you. So involving people, letting them know about resources, letting them know about counseling, letting them know about vulnerability, letting them know about education, letting them know that it's more than just this one neighborhood and what you see. There's so much more to life than just this. And you don't have to be embarrassed about who you are when you do leave. That's something a lot of people feel embarrassed. I'm like, nah, you don't have to. I'm everywhere I don't code switch. Y'all know about code switching? Mm-mm. Code is, I don't even know how to really explain it. It's like code switching is like, let's say, since I'm an African American male, if I was to go into an environment where there are none, I would change my vernacular, the way that I speak. I would change the way that I dress. Things that I wouldn't even want to do, I would take part in just so I could fit in with that group. I don't do that. I'm like, I ain't dressing different. I ain't talking different. I'm going to eat the same food that I eat. And a lot of people feel like they can't do that. And so I think what happens with those children is they get to a point where they have all of these different ideas and thoughts and feelings. They're like, you know what? I do want to try different food from different cultures. I want to listen to different music. Like instead, like everybody here listen to rap. So if I get caught listening to this rock music, I'm a weirdo because I'm code switching. But you can listen to your rock music if you want. You can eat your sushi and egg rolls and dress up in Japanese. You can do all of this stuff if you want to. But society don't let us do that. It really doesn't let us do it. And it handicaps us, and it captures our minds. It just like traps it in this cage. And it says you have to be who everybody thinks you are, or who everybody wants you to be. And once they have that moment, I think those kids just say, you know what? I'm not even going to try, because it's not going to happen for me. It's not going to happen for me.
I'm gonna a little bit of a turn in topics, kind of. So our friend Mike, who we had on the second episode, he goes to a trade school, part time. That's how he's studying nursing at Fort Hays Community, or was it Fort Hays Career Center.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, but he a lot of people that at least he sees and what I've heard is that there's not a lot of kids from more suburban areas that are like at least similar to UA that go to these trade schools. From what I've heard, it's more inner city kids.
Right.
So how do you feel that, like, and I think I've seen a lot of people see that because there's a majority of kids that are inner city schools that that go to Fort Hays.
Right.
I think it's somewhat reflected more negatively upon said programs in school because people think oh, it's inner city kids and people automatically kind of turn away when it comes to like Columbus City schools compared to if they were to look at Upper Arlington or Olentangy or stuff like that.
Right.
So I want to know a little bit of your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on that is when it comes to, like they said, the trade school, I think it's beneficial for inner city kids because the whole politically correct thing to do is to go to high school. Once you finish high school, go to college for 4 years, get your degree, continue school, get your master's and doctorate, and like all of these different things. But if you come from an environment where you're a first generation college student, you don't fully understand what is going on and how to live in that experience. For me personally, my sister and me went to college. My mother went to college for about, I don't know, but just for a little bit. And I believe that's after she went to college, that's when she had me, and that's when she stopped going to college. My father didn't go to college. He was in, it was called North Adult at the time. So it was kind of like credit recovery for kids that dropped out of school. So that's where he had went. So me and my sister, we went to college, and I can't really articulate her college experience, but to be honest, it took me about 3 years to fully understand and comprehend the college environment. I'm just thinking if I'm taking classes, that means that I'm getting credits. So as soon as I take all these classes, I'm going to get all of these credits and I'm going to graduate. No. You have to take specific classes that add up on your degree audit. So there are specific classes that you have to take. So, I want to do social work. So I'm thinking if I take all these sociology classes, I'm going to get all of my credits and I'm going to be a social worker in 1 year. That was really in my head. Like, I really just knew that was going to happen. So when I finished taking on my social work classes, my sociology classes, and this is with the professor that took me to the church that I talked about, I'm thinking, like, where's my degree at?
Right. Did you say it kind of? I remember in the talk you said it messed with your financial aid a little bit.
Oh yeah, messed it up because I'm thinking like, I'm gonna get money for this. Since I'm going to school, they paying for the classes, but I'm taking all these classes that have absolutely nothing to do with anything, and it messed my credits up. So that prolonged my college experience, and I'm like, oh. But it took me about three years of college to really say, oh. So this is how I pace myself. This is how I work and go to school. This is how I maintain friendships and relationships while I'm trying to pursue my degree. All of these different things that happen at the same time as college can also weigh you down and take away from that experience. So you have to be fully prepared and aware of the college environment before you just step into it, because people are like, go to school, get an education, but that does not work for everyone. And the biggest problem, I feel like, is debt. People get in debt, and it's like, wow, I might as well keep going since I'm in debt. But what happens when you do go to trade school instead of going to college, and you become well versed in whatever it is that you do, and you start off making decent money? For a person that comes from the inner city, that's great. As opposed to somebody that has to prolong their life to where they're not making money on a consistent basis. Because during like your teenage years of life within the inner city, most people need money, because if their parents are only making about $8 an hour and they're, not getting money like that, you're going to have to take care of yourself in due time. And a lot of people are in that position. And so they're thinking, I got to work. And then once it's time for college, it's like, this is taken away from my money. Like, my money right now is more important than my college degree because I have to survive.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, they go to college, they mess their money up, they get in debt, and they don't even know what they're doing. And that's why, like, with the trade, you know, people can say what they want about it, but I'm all for young kids within the inner city getting going to trade schools and, you know, carving out their ideas and what they want to do.
Right.
Just starting their journey, and after trade school, if you want to go to college, you can. But get that out the way so you can survive and so you can provide for yourself at that moment. Not later on in life where everything done hits you and you behind in bills and you got debt, all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Nah, get ahead of that.
Would you say that lack of understanding of how to handle I got my money is more important than my degree? Mm-hmm. Would you say that's more of a result of a problem with the system, or would you say that's more on the people that are involved in the system? Ooh, if that makes any sense.
I got you. I think it's a combination of people involved in the system and the system, because the system has been around for how long? A long time. Yeah. Ever since we've been here, pretty much. And the system itself is a machine that's just constantly working. Even if nobody is involved in it, it's constantly working. So for the people that it benefits, it benefits. And for the people that it doesn't, it doesn't. If somebody is getting more pieces of pizza over here, somebody over here is getting less pieces of pizza. So you have a lot of people over here that ain't getting any pizza, but you got people over here that's getting a lot. And that's how the machine is working. So now you take people and you put them in positions to where they only understand their environments and where they came from. And people are naturally going to give back to where they came from, or they're going to go where they know they're familiar with. Simple as that. So when you have people that come from the area where you get a lot of pizza with all the toppings, with the cheese, the sausage, the hot peppers, the mushrooms, you get all this stuff on your pizza.
Shout out Cousin Vinny's Pizza.
You get all this stuff on your pizza, and that's just how you live, and that's how you think everybody lives. And you think, well, you know what, this is what you need to survive and exist so you can have a pizza like this. But if you've never been on the other side where you get the dry pizza with the sauce is all dried up, the cheese is all rubbery, and you can't even...
The cardboard crust.
Yeah, the cardboard crust. Yeah. Like, come on now.
Old Domino's.
It's like the people that get all the pizza, they're in charge of what happens with the people that don't. Mm-hmm. Get the pizza. And it's easy to say, well, you know, you have the same opportunity as me to put the toppings on your pizza. You can get mushrooms and onions if you want. But truthfully, when there is a lack of resources, when you have been oppressed, when education has been taken away from you to where, you know, you had to force the end of segregation and switch people into different schools just so they could be around environments where they could get a better education. And, you know, people were exiled. They were just pushed out of communities, gentrification, all of these different things that just took place that put people in a position where they had nothing and they had to work with what they had. And it's easy to look at those people and say, they don't want better for themselves. They don't want to take care of their kids, but like I said, the system itself, the pizza making machine, it makes pizzas and it delivers it to people on its own. But then when you have people that are behind that and say, yeah, this is how the machine is supposed to work, that also makes it difficult for everybody that want pizza that really don't get it. So I'm still sitting in the corner eating that dried up pizza with the rubbery cheese and the cardboard taste and flavor on it, as I'm trying to work my way up. But there's a person that just won't let it be. Then those pizzas are given to the other people that already got pizzas. Why are you giving them people pizza? I need some pizza. So share your pizza with me.
Yeah.
You feel me?
That is the best analogy I've ever heard
I
for
just-
college.
I just made it up in my head.
That's
so
amazing.
I don't even know what I'm talking about right now.
Write a book.
Hey, no,
called-
one of my friends said, nice clear analogy with using the pizza example.
Write a book called The Economics of Pizza or something like that. Just use that in something out there. I love that. We're gonna rename our podcast. Yeah.
And I think there's like a lot of there's like I feel like there's people that are trying to just like hard switch problems, like, oh, we can easily fix this by doing this. Like you mentioned how the kids were like they would have like switch schools. My dad kind of grew up in that time where like in the mid to late 70s where they would literally put a bus full of white kids and a bus full of black kids and have them trade schools.
Exactly.
And he was on that bus full of white kids and he was like, this is interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you even thinking about the repercussions?
Right.
And what could happen if you're not careful just because a law has changed? You know, just because laws change, it doesn't mean that people's minds have changed.
Exactly.
You know, like racism doesn't exist. That doesn't mean a person is going to stop being racist. Murdering people that's against the law. People still do it. Rape is against the law. People still do it. So you have to really think about what has taken place before we come to the conclusion and finally say, you know what, this is wrong. And now let's take everybody and make them switch places and act like they best friends. Like the remnants and the leftovers of all of the chaos still exists. But if we're going to sit back and act like it doesn't exist, and for the sake of that, mesh people together that never had a chance to talk to each other, never had a chance to connect and communicate and understand each other's cultural backgrounds or cultural differences, how is that going to work? And I feel like that situation put us where we are right now, to where we're still having conversations about race and prejudiceness, all of these different things, because like you said, it's a quick fix all attempt, as opposed to a slow, thorough, real, authentic approach that could benefit everyone. Like, oh, let's throw them all together. No, it don't work that way.
Yeah.
It do not work that way.
In the ground below, I feel sorry for them all, because they'll never know how it feels to be in love with you. And
So, what would you say that the average citizen in, let's say, Columbus, can do to help you further the goals of not only a talk with our sons, but your goals with the pizza machine as well? But I mean, I have had times where I will have a conversation like this with someone who feels the same way. And it's just like you said at the beginning of this episode, I got to do something.
Right.
I have no clue what to do,
Right.
And what would you say is the answer to that question?
I would say that first and foremost, you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do? I feel like a lot of people, what happens is they get so caught up in the thought of doing something that they'll go anywhere and do anything. But just because you volunteer, or just because you read a book, or just because you're around people that aren't like you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're contributing to a beneficial change. Sometimes those environments and things that you learn, depending on who you're learning from, who you're connected to, and what they're doing, what they can have ulterior motives. All of these different things are taking place, and a person that wants to get involved could easily get caught up in those things and not know or recognize it, because they're so bent on trying to make a change. I would say first and foremost, say, how much am I willing to do, and what do I want to do? How much can I take? When it comes to my sanity and how I feel and what I want to do, what can I do? And whatever your answer is, that helps you move into the next step of planning. And I definitely would say sit back and observe. Always observe somebody else that you see in your position that is doing something and see what works for them. You know, it's like a person that comes from the same environment. What's working for them? How are they supportive? And how are the people that they're supporting respond to their support? Is it good? Is it bad? Do they continuously ask them to be around them? Do they push them away? Really dig into it before you take your first step. Because I think a lot of people, you know, that impulse, it gets them. They take a step, but before you know it, it doesn't do much, and we're still dealing with the same exact problems that we've been having for how long now. And nothing changes. Now we got another angry individual that tried to help, but it didn't work. So I would say observe, definitely educate yourself, prepare yourself, but sit back and pay attention and really think about what you want to do, how you can do it, who's already doing it, and what happens after they do it. Can that be you, or do you think you should do something a little bit different? You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to somebody in your position.
Okay. Yeah, and sometimes it's more valuable to get behind another person's movement rather than start your own movement yourself.
Right.
Too, because everybody wants to start a movement, right? You know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know all about it.
That's even a thing in marketing, and I talked about that on a few episodes ago, how I hate advertising, especially corporate advertising. If you have a movement behind your product,
Right.
then you're getting sales, you know?
Right.
And people, sometimes they'll go to people's heads, and that's what they'll make of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll say, like, I'm helping people. How many likes can I get on this photo of me helping people? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen that plenty of times. Yeah.
so I think another component to what you said is probably make sure you have the right aims for it.
Yes.
And are you really willing to connect with these people that you want to connect with?
Right.
Or are you saying, hey, I can connect with people? Nobody can connect with everybody. That's just not the way it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you got to find your group.
Yep.
You know?
And that's like what you said about how many likes can I get of helping this person. It just makes me think about, you know, people out of nowhere where they're like, you know, I want to help the homeless. How serious are you about that? And how deep are you willing to go? And, you know, it's like sometimes like you have a nonprofit, like we do this with the homeless people, but there's no homeless people inside your building. Mm-hmm. We want to help kids that are deprived. We want to help immigrants. What immigrants do you know? You know, and that's where you have to really question, what are the motives behind this? Is it just a good idea and a mission statement to where you can say, look what I did? Mm. Or is it something that's really inside of you that you're passionate about, that you have a love for, and you just can't sleep because you're constantly thinking about it and you know that this needs to change? It can't just be I have an idea and I want to do something, because you're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with real people's lives and real experiences that dictate how they exist. So the last thing you want to do is come around and give these people a false sense of hope, thinking that they can believe in you and trust you with your ideas and your vision. But truthfully, these people are being exploited for your gain. And sometimes you see those things, and you have to be careful of who you associate yourself with, or who you do these things with, who you're close to, who you're connected with. And that's why I'm like, observe. Always observe first, because usually in due time you'll see who's really doing the work and who isn't. Who's doing stuff behind the scenes and doesn't ask for any shout outs or recognition. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are people that do get recognition all the time. So always observe and see what's taking place, and look at a person's like track record from the beginning to where they're at right now. Has their tone changed or switched? Have they been consistent? Have they constantly gotten to altercations with people that had something to say about their ideas and vision? You have to take all of these things into consideration before you engage with somebody. You do not know who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So always do your research and always observe.
and you have to be that reluctant leader too,
Right.
like we said near the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
Think that you are the only one who's stable. You think that I need to be with you every night. I'm gonna walk away, run away. I don't need you anymore.
Do you think it would be there would what do you think would be the best way to connect when it comes to like Corey and I, who are two white boys from a cushy neighborhood that don't have too much experience with what kids in the inner city might have to experience, that like maybe in a community that's, you know, predominantly full of young African American kids, and they see these, you know, young white privileged boys coming in trying to, you know, help the community. How do you do you think there's going to be how do you think that would be the best way for someone like us to connect with somebody that might see as like, oh, well, they will never really know what it's like because of where they're from?
I would say, well, I was talking about not code switching earlier. About like, I'm not changing the way I talk.
Right.
I'm not changing the way I dress. I'm not changing the food. If we go out and we eat, I ain't ordering something I don't know how to pronounce.
Right.
I remember I went to, I love my friend to death. It was one of the people I spoke at TEDx with. So we went to a country club. I ain't never been to a country club a day in my life. I ain't know they existed for real, you know. So I'm like, it was like in this forest. I had to drive to the back, and it was like, where am I? And we got there, and I'm like, it's a big old mass land, and it's this big building. And we went inside, and you know, like there's a guy at the bar, like shining the glass. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, this is real. And we were just sitting in the room, and the dude had came over, and he was giving us wine and stuff. And I'm like, you know, just drinking the wine.
Two hands around the glass.
I'll take that wine. And then it was time to order the food. Mm. And he was like, so we have oufloucayotato from France, dipped in souffle sauce. We have the Russian aklakabak. And I'm like, I need to hear something that I know because I don't want to just eat anything.
Right.
So he was like, oh, we have chicken and mashed potatoes. I'm like, give me the chicken and mashed potatoes, man. I don't care. Like, give me the chicken and mashed potatoes.
Like, chili dog, man.
But, you know, at that moment, it was just funny because I'm like, dang. You know, I have an opportunity to eat all this different food, but I'm going to sit here and eat what I want.
Right.
And I'm going to have fun with my friends. And I'm going to talk about what I talk about. Mm-hmm. And I just use that example to say that, you know what, you have to bring yourself to those environments. It's because you're there because they want you there. The last thing you should do is switch up and you know, have this thought in the back of your head, I can't connect, I can't interact, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Just be yourself first. And whatever it is you're there for, it will eventually happen. If you're there to help, when you become friends with people, when you interact with people, when you talk to people, when you engage, when you learn their stories, when they open up and share with you, you naturally are doing the work. Mm-hmm. And it becomes easier to do once you have a rapport with people. So the relationship is the most important component as opposed to the mission. If the mission is the only thing you can think of as soon as you get there, you know, that's distancing yourself from all the people you want to connect with. First things first, develop relationships and don't be fearful. You know, don't be fearful to talk first or to just sit down and connect and eat and just be present. You know, you may not recognize it, but you remove yourself with your thoughts because it dictates your actions. So you might stand in the corner or you might stand over here or you might be like, you know, they might not be comfortable with me. So if that thought is in your head, you're going to distance yourself. It's like, you know what, either this is going to work or it's not. I know I'm a genuine, authentic person and I know why I'm here and I'm not going anywhere until that happens. But before it happens, I know that I have to act like a human being and I have to treat the people around me like a human being. So it's a human experience that you're getting and what they'll give back to you as opposed to trying to break down if since we come from two different cultures and environments, and we grew up differently, our perceptions and our experiences are going to separate us. It can happen. It does happen, and that is a serious problem. But as you see, we're sitting here talking to each other on a podcast about it, and as we talk, we're not thinking about that. It's like it completely just goes out the window until we bring it up again.
Right.
Until we bring it up again.
Oops.
But as we're just talking, it's a conversation.
Right.
And I'm a little bit more wise about y'all. Y'all a little bit more wise about me, where I come from, and people that I deal with on a consistent basis. So what we're doing is how it's done, and how we can make progression.
So I was on your website the other day doing some research, you know. Sent you that screenshot of the questions. You're like, oh man. And
Most people don't do research. Bro, they just look at the last thing that you did and they ask you about it.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting. I'm like, oh, this dude did some digging. Is
that something that sets us apart? That makes me happy.
Yeah,
Hear that.
it
That's
do.
cool.
It sets y'all apart for sure.
Thank you. One of the tabs on your website was called Donte's Eyes, and I clicked on it, and it was blank.
Yeah.
And so many questions started running through my head. I'm like, did he go blind? What's going on? And
Did his eyes go away? Like, what happened?
Or I was expecting clicking on it and just seeing a picture of your eyes.
Well, that's also the name of your Instagram too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was wondering what that was.
Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all the story behind that. So, I actually created my own website. It took a lot out of me. So as time went on and I was doing a lot of things, when it comes to branding, you should have the same name across different platforms. So I'm like, I got different names all over the place. And I'm like, what's something that I can have that explains who I am and what it is that I'm doing? And I came to the conclusion, like, you know what, Donte's Eyes, because I'm constantly telling stories. I involve my friends in everything that I do. And I'm just sharing who I am. And what I plan to do with Donte's Eyes is to just share everything from my perspective, because I'm the question guy. I ask everybody else the questions. So like I did at the school, I was just digging in y'all's brains, but it's an opportunity for people to see what I see, hear what I think, how I feel, and some of my like most intimate creations and private moments with people that they may not know that I'm connected to, friends they may not know that I have, and just me having the opportunity to really enjoy my journey and expressing myself, because sometimes as you're doing the work, you don't get to take a break and say, you know what, I really enjoy what I just did because I wanted to do it. I created it, as opposed to somebody else asking you to do something, which is okay. But once again, when you're constantly being asked to give the same speech over and over or talk about the same thing over and over, you start to lose yourself a little bit. You're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I done said the same speech 1,000 times. I'm tired of this. So Donte's Eyes is giving me an opportunity to create different documentaries and different videos and different conversations, and just me reflecting. And like I said, really giving people an opportunity to dive into my life and see what it is I'm experiencing and what it is that I'm doing and how I feel. And not like isolating myself. I don't give people much of a chance to see what it is that I'm doing. Like with this podcast, I was like, I want to give people a chance to actually see me on a podcast, because I don't tell people. It's just like so much stuff is happening back to back to back to back. I'm like, I want to be that guy like, hey, I got another event coming up. Come support. I got a podcast I'm doing. Watch it. And it's like, I don't want people to be running around all over the place and just constant. But a lot of people like, yo, I enjoy what you're doing. I like what you're doing, and I want to see more of it. So, Donte's Eyes is me giving them that opportunity, and that's like, but that's what that specific blank area is for.
Okay.
Which is ironic, because you can't see anything. So it's like, what does Donte see? But I'm definitely going to start doing much more work, specifically through short documentation, with videos, just conversations with my friends, and just different things that's going on in the community, and just bringing everybody together, but also me sharing myself as well. So that's what Donte's Eyes is.
Cool. One more thing under Donte's Eyes, I believe it's under that. That I also saw on your website. I did watch the clip that was there, but I wanted to know more about the De Maria. Is that how you?
De Mariah.
Mariah.
Yeah,
okay.
Donte and De Mariah.
The documentary about that. It's a little girl that you started working with, right?
Yes.
And it's the first girl that you started working with?
It's the first girl, and it's actually the very first kid, period.
Really?
Yes, first kid ever.
Okay. We would love to know about that.
I would love to tell you.
Good. Welcome to Gap Street.
But it's ironic because the Talk with Our Sons is, I started that before I did this documentary with her. The clip on the website, that's not her.
Oh,
that's another kid. But because I know what clip, I was trying to figure out, like, how do I put video on my website? So I just put the video up. I ain't take it down yet and change it. But that's one of the kids in the documentary though.
Okay.
But I did a Talk with Our Sons before I did Donte and De Mariah. The reason I didn't like, the reason I shifted to that is because, like, a lot of kids that I work with within my life, and especially the teenage boys, is you have no idea what's going to happen next. You don't know when they're not going to be around anymore. There's been children that have been taken away by children's services. It's children that's moved away. It's children that I know that have died, and it's like I have this intense desire to do something right now. And I was just thinking, like, wow, De Mariah, this little girl, the first kid that I ever developed a mentor relationship with, I'm still connected to her out of all of the kids that I've lost. And I just thought to myself, you know what, I want to do something to help set her life up. But I also want other people to see what it's like for a little black girl to be hopeful and have dreams and have these ideas, and also a man that will get behind her and support her in what those things are, but also share some of my ignorance of working with little girls, because I really don't know what I'm doing. And as she transitions into middle school, I know that my status as a mentor is really going to be tested, because that's when she gets older. You know, right now all we doing is eating Wendy's and chicken nuggets and spending time together and doing cartwheels. That's it. Like that's it right now. But I have to prepare myself for when she gets older. And what this documentary has done is given me the opportunity to dig deeper into the experiences of young girls and women. I've interviewed women that I've knew most of my life. I've interviewed women that I met not too long ago. And it's very interesting when, like I said, when you put the camera on somebody and you ask them, you'll hear stories that you had no idea existed. And what's scary is how, even though you didn't know the story existed, you can't attach it to them. And it's like, whoa, if I couldn't attach this story to you, a friend of mine or somebody that I met and I hold in such high regard, I can't think of you ever being abused. I can't think of you having issues as a child. I can't think of you experiencing all of these different things and for you to be in a position that you're in right now. And the last thing I want is for De Mariah to go through all of those things, but me to never think that something is happening within her life or she's thinking a certain way or feeling a certain way, and I just kind of brush it under the rug, where I'm like, oh, you're all right. You know, that's just what happens. That's life. You know, when people, that's life. That ain't life. That's messed up.
I hate when people say
I hate that too.
It's terrible.
But
It's just the way it is, man.
right. But with her in particular, the documentary is something that I want her to be able to look back on, because the way it's mapped out is, you know, what happens when you start off as a little girl and then you become a teenager and you become a woman. What things are happening that people may not be paying attention to that is never really talked about or exposed? And why is it never exposed? Because they, like I said, me and Dave Mariah, right now, our relationship is good. She's good. She's taken care of. But a lot of other young girls may not have the experience that she has. And I don't want to wait until something bad happens with her to say, oh, I care now. Oh, I want to make a documentary. Oh, let's talk about it. No, let's do that right now. Let's talk about it right now while she's okay. Because I want her to be able to help young girls and women once she gets older. But I want her to be educated. Like, as I'm educating myself, this is like something that she can look back on and watch me as a man educate myself. But she doesn't even know how important of a puzzle piece she is right now to all of this stuff that's going on with the documentary and what I've been doing just here recently. But as she gets older and she starts breaking it down, she's going to say, whoa, this documentary was showed at, you know, Columbus State, Ohio State, Ohio Dominican, at Gateway. It won a competition, and look what it's talking about. It's a young black girl that is okay, that's happy, that doesn't have a story that comes from strife. It's her right now. You don't see that too often. They wait until somebody has been hurt, broken down, abused, and they want to say, hey, we got this person that we need to help. Mm-hmm. How about we take a person that's doing okay right now, raise them up, get behind them and support them, and when the time comes, they can help the people just like them, and they can show them the way. She's going to be that person. Like, that's what I'm investing in when it comes to her right now. And like I said, once I want to be able to set her up for her life, because I don't know if she's always going to be around me. I don't know. So this is like my gift to her for her life, to look back on it. Even if she cuts me out the equation, she can look at the documentary and say, oh, okay. And it's like the people, she can contact the people in the documentary later on in her life and see what they're doing, because they're making moves as well. But they're always going to remember that little girl in the documentary that Donte made about her. So that's what that documentary is all about.
Yeah, and I think that can be related to a lot of problems where people will wait until something really bad happens before they decide that they finally want to take action.
Right. Preventative care.
Right. This, I think a good example of this was Parkland.
Yeah.
When that happened, it took for that to happen for kids to really and there were kids protesting before with stuff like Columbine and Sandy Hook, but I feel like Parkland was the real big one.
Yeah.
But even after Parkland, I feel like it's the activism that kind of was sparked from that has kind of died down.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because I remember when this happened and all these kids were becoming a lot more invested in making a change in what was going on with legislation and firearms and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of, as time went by, it became almost less relevant. And I feel like, and then more shootings started happening, and it just kind of became okay, now this is America. We now live in this world where school shootings and shootings in general are just something that we're used to now.
Right.
And in New Zealand, when they just had that attack, it took less than
3 days or something.
3 days before they were like, okay,
yeah.
No more assault rifles. You guys lost
Yeah.
that privilege.
Right.
Now, I think the most basic principle here is that not every rule that's written down should have a story behind it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like at my work, we say, don't put your fingers through the fencing, because we've had to tell people that before. You know what I mean? Like, I work in an axe throwing facility, so you're not going to be, you don't want to be in another person's space. But not every rule. I mean, there have to be some rules that are preemptive. That That's why we have invested as a country in preventative care,
Right.
in the Medicare sector. But
Right.
like, the American culture doesn't value preventative care.
Right.
That's not something that happens. You have to get shot to go to the hospital.
Right.
You don't go to the doctor. I mean, yeah, you got your yearly checkup. Thankfully that's a cultural thing that has
Right.
just become,
Right.
but that's not much.
Mm-hmm.
That's one time a year.
Right.
If you're not going, there are some people who don't go once a year too.
Right.
If you're going once, once right next to me. Okay. Prime example right here. But you gotta make sure that people. I've been told all my life that it's not all about you, and I think I've said that in an episode before. People have just said, like, Corey, stop! It's not all about you. Sometimes it has to in the right moments.
Right.
It depends on the time, and especially medically,
Right.
it has to be about you, because
Yeah.
how can you make it about other people unless it's about you first? And that's what your Idea Day session this year was about.
Right.
It was called Saving Yourself Before Saving the World.
Yeah.
And, I mean, again, not all rules have to have a story behind them. You gotta make them before something happens.
Right. Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
and that's what you're doing with De Mariah, where you're setting her up. And that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
That we are, and it's nothing like I've ever heard before, that we're putting this person who is, they're doing fine. Like, they're doing okay. And they're put on a pedestal for the right reasons.
Right.
And often,
Right.
it feels like people who are doing well are put on pedestals for the wrong reasons.
Right. Exactly.
And this time, it's serving a way better purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's much more important than, taking the bullet out.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And that's exactly what it's about, because like I said, I don't want to wait until something bad happens, and I want to be progressive. I don't want to talk about it, like you said, once the bullet is in there. Now it went through my heart. You gotta take the bullet out of my heart. Now I'm internally bleeding. Now I need blood from a person that don't exist because I got this unique blood inside of me. Like, just all of these different things happen when
So
you're
many
not
complications.
Yeah, when you're not progressive, you find out how far behind you are and everything that you have to do. And then there's rules and regulations to getting help when you are behind. How much money do you have? Where do you come from? Who do you know? What is your past? And it's like, you know what? If we set stuff up right now to where we don't even have to worry about that, it would be so much more beneficial and helpful to the future and the people that are coming up. And it'll serve as an example of what can be replicated instead of just doing like the pizza machine, just doing what it does, creating the same pizzas over and over and over. Mm-hmm. It's time for a new pizza. It's like people are gluten. People doing.
Let's show some cheese in the crust. Let's do something a little different.
People ain't eating gluten anymore. People are vegan. So you got to do things a little bit different. And you see what happened when the vegan wave came. Places that are all meat, like meat. We have vegan meat now because they recognize that they would lose patrons if they didn't do that, if they didn't include them. We also have to do that when it comes to stories. We have to include the people that are okay, that have not experienced it, but we have to educate them. And we have to give them something as well, because when the time comes, they're going to be face to face or if they do become face to face with that problem or that issue or that situation, they have a little bit more wisdom and understanding, and they know how to avoid it. Or when they see somebody else that's going through that, they know how to help them instead of doing the same exact thing that we've been doing. Get angry, get upset, start going after people and saying this person ain't doing that. We need to do this. We need to come together and figure this out. Why don't we do it now? Not while something bad is happening, but just because it is Sunday and what time is it?
8:25.
8:25. It's Sunday, 8:25. Hey, let's come up with an idea to change the world. because we want to,
Yeah.
and because it makes sense. Because you're my friend, and we know that there's dangers out there in the world that could attack our character and our relationship. Let's get at it right now. Let's not wait until somebody comes and says something or does something, and now we're extra uncomfortable. Our anxiety is all high. We angry and frustrated. You can't really map and plan things out when you don't have a clear mind. So avoid being angry and frustrated and just at the lowest low. And now you're speaking up. You should always speak up when you have your voice too, not when it's gone. And I feel like with Dame Mariah, she has a voice right now. I have a voice right now. I want people to hear what I have to say and what I'm learning, and I want people to see her and what she has to say and what she's eventually going to do and what she's eventually going to teach all of Columbus and the rest of the world. Is that you don't have to exploit anybody to make a story. This story just came from my mind and it was an idea. So I want people to understand that with ideas and with thoughts, you can jump on it right away. You don't have to have this deep mission statement. You don't have to have a whole bunch of sponsors, and you don't have to have a whole bunch of people behind you, a whole bunch of money. You can just do what is on your mind and how you feel with nothing. And everything will come eventually, but the most important part is getting that story out. Don't hold yourself back from telling that story. Because sooner or later, that story is just going to sit in you for how many years? Right. You're going to be 5 years going to go by. You didn't even do what you said you was going to do. You're like, oh, it's too late now. And then you see somebody doing the same exact thing. You like, I was going to do that. But you didn't. They did it. So you got to make sure that you're proactive and you do what you're thinking. And, think about how messed up it is later on. Give yourself an opportunity to look back and say, wow, that was pretty bad back then. I didn't know what I was doing, but I do now. But you had to start at that point where it was just like, this is horrible. So that's with the whole documentary with Dame Mariah. I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning. Thankfully, I had a friend of mine that just came on board, was like, yo, I see what you're doing. Let's make this documentary. And that was my help right there. And that turned into all of these different opportunities to speak about the documentary, like today. So just having an idea and jumping in it with no concrete plan or blueprint turned into this. So I highly encourage people, if they have an idea or a vision, they thinking about something, just do it. Like, just do it. Worry about how bad it is later. Do it right now.
La, da, 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 da. I hope the world falls in love. I want the world to fall.
All right, well, I think that is the perfect note to end on.
I agree, because what you just described is how this happened.
Right? Yeah.
You're just like, what? It's whatever. It's probably gonna be bad, but like, let's go ahead and do it. And now we have Donte Wood Spikes on our podcast, which is a milestone for us, if we're being quite honest.
This is awesome.
I can say that this is, I really enjoy when students or young people reach out, because I have to end on this note. Not too long ago, I don't know, did you two hear anything about Amber Evans?
Yes.
So Amber Evans was an activist in Columbus, Ohio, and recently she passed, and it was like a real big deal because she was very active in the activist community. And today, another person passed away, Ruben Herrera, that did a lot of stuff as well. And it's so crazy when people that you see on a consistent basis, that have the same vision as you, same ideas and thoughts, and they want to see the community in a better position, and immediately they're no longer present. It's something that's confusing. It throws you off. But what happens I feel like with us, people that are activists, that are present in the community, sometimes we forget about the younger people, because we're trying to create this future for them, but we don't include them in it. And when we don't do that, they get lost, or they take on our stories. They take on our frustration and our anger. So, I think it's important for people that, like the lost Amber and Ruben, for us to remember that we have children that are behind us and are watching, and we can't just lose ourselves and just get so frustrated and angry. We can, but we have to remember that we all are in this together, and we're trying to pass something along to the children. And the last thing we want to pass on to them is how upset and angry we are. We want to pass a legacy down to them. We want things to be a little bit better than it was for us, for them. You can fight as well, but don't fight the same exact fight I was fighting. That means that I didn't do my job. Or every time something happened to me, every time I got angry, every time I had a loss, I didn't learn from it. And I have to figure out, how can I learn from this? And how can I give back to the young people? So for y'all to even think of me, of course, you saw me on TEDx, Billboard, blah, blah, all of this stuff, yeah. But the human interaction and connection that I have is what got me to that point, And it just reminds me, like, regardless of how much I've been through, how much I'm hurt, how frustrated I am, I have to remember that there was somebody that went through what I'm going through right now, and they were suffering through so much stuff, but they still found time for me. So it's my turn to do that as well. So, that's when it comes to, the young people, we have to always make sure that we making a way for them, and we don't forget how important they are and that they're up next. And when they finally get that opportunity, it should be a little bit more easier, and things should be a little bit more clear. So I hope that I was able to say something to both of you that gave you an idea or better understanding to whatever it is you do want to do, or whatever it is you've been thinking about. Because we should always pass that knowledge on to one another. And we shouldn't leave with nothing. It should be something. It shouldn't just be nothing. So I really hope that I gave you something. Like I said, for those people to pass away, you think like, wow, you do not know when this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I hope that I gave y'all something.
You did. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Everything you said in this episode is like best episode material.
I would agree.
I've learned a lot personally.
We learned about pizzas and
Pizza.
the pizza making machine.
Wow.
Little Caesars versus Mikey's. It's the way it is. $24 a pizza,
Right.
$5 a pizza.
Right.
But one last question for you, and I think this is the point, one of the biggest points of the podcast. Mm-hmm. How can people find you and your message? Online,
where
anywhere
can we
else?
keep up with your projects?
Exactly.
I'm a Facebook dude. I know like a lot of people like on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat. I am a Facebook dude. That is where I'm at. So
Okay.
like my Facebook friends know right now. But if you can look me up, Donte Woods Spikes, you can find me.
Okay.
But mostly on Facebook is where I'm most active. But I'm definitely working on my website more as time is going on, because my problem is I have so much material. I don't know what to put up. So I'm definitely trying to break it down and make it an easy, quick experience for people. Not that they got to navigate over here to here to there to there. I just want people to be able to say, okay, this is Donte and this is what he offers. So working on the website, but in the meantime, you definitely can find me on Facebook, or you can find me on the billboard downtown on High and Spring.
I saw you post about that. That was awesome.
You can find me a painting at Broad and what's that street? It's a Family Dollar. I forgot what, but like it's a painting inside of the building. I'm all over Columbus, but Facebook is where you can find me though.
Cool.
All right.
Do you have any last minute shout outs to people who you would also like to get their name out there in this episode?
I pretty much said Ruben and Amber.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to be the person to stand up and talk about what everybody is thinking, but no one is saying. I can definitely say that Amber and Ruben were people that spoke on behalf of the masses. And I would like to dedicate this whole conversation and this moment to them and to all of my friends that are grieving right now and their families. Because, you know, even though we all don't hang out with each other, we're all not around each other all the time. When somebody is no longer present, it's like a domino effect. When this one person is hurt, that next person is impacted, then another person is impacted, and it finds its way back to you. So I would, you know, just pay attention to what's next when it comes to Amber and Ruben and people that are active in their communities. Definitely just pay attention to what happens after these two pillars in the community are no longer around, and who worked with them, who were friends with them, who were family with them, and what the next steps are. Because it's devastating. It's real devastating. I know a lot of people hurt right now, but I would say pay attention to them. And, you know, conversations are real big with me too. I gotta shout out a couple people, just real quick. Like my friend Betty, she talk a lot, and I talk a lot too, but we be having some deep conversations. Jacob, he was in a video that I showed. Jacob, that dude deep. We gonna be working together real soon. But recently we've been just going back and forth trading. It's a friend of mine. I made a video about Amber, and a friend I really didn't talk to that much. Her name is Shantae, and she had left a message under the video just talking about appreciating the work and what everybody is doing, and it just really impacted me because I'm like, wow, I really don't. I mean, people say things, but the timing of her saying that and how she said it, I was like, whoa, that hit me. You know, sometimes you don't recognize how vulnerable you are, but when you are and somebody says something to you, it's like, whoa, I felt that in my heart. Like, so it is, you know, shout out to her for being able to say that. It's real easy to look at a person who has a high status and it's like, I ain't gonna say nothing to them, blow their head up, but she's like, I'm still gonna say thank you for your work and the impact that you have. So, you know, shout out to her and to all of my friends that support me all of the time and get behind everything that I'm doing. And I can keep talking, but it's a long episode. But and y'all, shout out to y'all, man.
Thanks, man.
I really love what y'all doing, and I see where this is going. I definitely see where this is going.
We do want to keep it going for a while, and we hope it does. Yeah,
that's what's up.
Cool stuff.
I'm inspired. For real, I'm inspired. I thank y'all so much for bringing me on.
Thank you for being on it.
Audience, don't forget to check out DonteWoods-Spikes.com as the man, again, across the TV tray for me. It was a wonderful experience. We are blessed to have this man with us and speaking on the platform.
And thank you again to the Green Room for helping make it so that we can do this. And,
for longer.
Keep us...
Very helpful.
Yep, definitely helps us out a lot.
And last two announcements. We have an official website.
We do.
It is called theoutagecouch.com. I know that is different from Gab Street. We are planning on having an overarching website, but right now it is only Gab Street. Second announcement with that, we also have an official subreddit now. It is r/Gab Street.
For real?
We have, yes. Yeah. We have 6 subscribers.
I'm on it.
Now 7. So please take a moment. We want to engage with the community as much as we can. We want suggestions on who to bring on as guests. We want suggestions for who to use as music. And we want suggestions for what to talk about when we don't have guests on our episodes. So please engage with us as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And we hope to see you in the comments section on YouTube. We hope to see you everywhere.
Yep.
So thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, and you guys can also check out the Redbubble merchandise that we've got going around.
Yes.
If you guys are interested in that, if you guys want to rep some cool Gab Street t-shirts or collect some stickers.
Just go to Redbubble and search Gab Street Podcast.
You'll find some cool stuff.
That's how you find it. If you don't include podcast, there's like a weird boutique or whatever that comes up instead. So you have to include podcast, but Yeah, there's some cool shirts and mugs and stickers on there. We have a few stickers here, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you
We
again,
will catch
Donte.
you next
No
week.
problem. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Donte.